Brianna, it happens.
Look, things are unhinged, okay?
Yeah.
The horrors persist, and so do we.
Horrors and horrors.
Horrors and horrors. Horrors on horrors.
We're all persisting.
Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Ivette, here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, we just got done watching the 1962 movie Carnival of Souls. All right, so at first, like, we have a running list of movies to watch. We had this on the list, and we were kind of like, what is this movie? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
But then after watching it, we were like, oh, that's why it was recommended to us. And you'll find out. Stay tuned, and you'll learn as well. But it's about a woman who survives a car accident under mysterious circumstances. And she's an organist, which is a big part of the movie. And she moves out of that town to go live a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't work.
No, it sure doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Dun, dun, dun.
So yeah, I think someone recommended this movie to me, and it's because we were talking about horror movies, and the reason they brought this up is because this movie was set in, and a lot of it was filmed in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because at first, like when she moves, and we'll talk about it as we like go through the movie, but I saw the outline of like the carnival building that she saw, and I was thinking, I was like, that's not Salt's hair, is it? And I just completely forgot the entire conversation of the person being like, you should watch it because it's, filmed in Utah where the Salt Palace is. Like, oh, okay.
Okay, so I have a question for you both.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know the history of salt air?
Yes.
Okay,
Little,
I did
a bit
not.
of it. Mm-hmm.
Like, I only knew that it was like, I thought it was just a venue that was out there. Because, like, if you're not familiar with it, it's just kind of this one building basically on stilts over the Salt Lake.
Yeah, I've never been to it.
Okay, and it's
Oh,
rough.
really?
So
No,
when
I've
went,
driven by it, but
when I went, it was for Modest Mouse.
because it's just a concert venue now.
Yeah.
Right. It's very, very in rough shape. The smell is horrendous. And the flies and the bugs, because it was an outdoor concert, were wild.
Oh, okay. I've only been to an indoor concert.
Okay.
There.
Yeah, it was out on the grass. But I looked into it and I had no idea what it used to be.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. I have a print, I think it's back in Utah, of like kind of the original Salt Air, because their whole pitch was it was going to be the Coney Island of the West. So it was like this huge, beautiful resort. Like if you look at pictures of
giant.
The version 1, so spoiler alert, there's 3 versions of the Salt Air. Version 1 was like this beautiful, giant resort that was like right on the Salt Air. But then the water from the Great Salt Lake receded and there was a giant fire. Is kind of the quick summary. There were other contributing things that destroyed it. And so they rebuilt. And that's the version that's in this movie, is Salt Air version number 2.
Okay.
So they rebuilt. And then this one was more like they kind of just lost business because over time people were like, why would I go all the way to the Salt Air? And then I think there was another fire or 2 that destroyed that second version of the Salt Air. And then finally, at some point they rebuilt. And I think they used like an old like airplane hangar to build version number 3, which is what they have now. Which is like the most like, it's like if you took the original one and then you stripped every single thing away from it and made like the most basic, you're trying to kind of make it look like the original. Like,
yes,
it looks really weird now.
Yes.
But that's kind of like the quick story is like built, burn, and then it kind of just got drafted down and down and down. And now there's just like a concert venue.
Yeah, I had no idea that it was like, because in the movie there's a scene where she goes onto this dance floor, and I was reading that was like the biggest dance floor in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I had no idea that it was like this whole thing.
Yeah, no, it was like a big deal. Well, and actually, that dance floor is what caused the second fire. That's what lit
son
on
of a
fire.
bitch.
It was the giant wood dance floor.
Of course. So that it's got to be haunted.
For
Just all this
sure.
bad luck.
I mean, for anyone who likes watching ghost shows, Ghost Adventures did an episode at the Saltaire.
Okay.
I don't know what season it was, but I watched it. So it was probably like years ago. If you're curious, go watch the Ghost Adventures.
Was it haunted? Did they determine?
I mean, obviously.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it seems, obviously in this movie it is.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, yeah. And I mean, also, like, it's important to note that the Salt Lake itself is very different now from what it was. Like, it's barely there anymore. So even in the 60s, you know, it was a very like full and wet lake. Like, it was a voluptuous lake, and it is just not that way anymore. So
no.
It's going to be completely gone soon, and then no one will be able to survive in Utah. Like, the soil will become arid, and like we'll all have to move. And, like,
end of times.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Talk about scary movies.
So let's talk about this movie.
Okay, so it starts.
What a wild ride.
Speaking of rides. So it starts out with this drag race and just terrible acting by all involved.
And also, I had a note because it was the first like 10, 15 minutes of the movie. And I was like, is the entire movie dubbed? Because none of the sound was actually the people talking. Like, it was all voiced over and poorly timed, because like they would be talking and then and that finally fixed itself. But for the first while of the movie, like, very weird audio.
Yeah. And then I have a question. So depending on, there was two ways you could have currently that you could have streamed this movie. The way I found it first, I forgot about. And so then when I went to watch it on the second streaming platform, the only way you could watch that one was the colorized version of it. But the original one that I found on the other streaming platform was black and white. So did you guys watch black and white or the colorized?
I did black and white.
I did the colorized.
I did colorized.
Ooh.
Oh, see, I feel like the black and white maybe saved any element of scariness, like, for the movie. So I can't imagine it in color.
Late in some of the late scenes, they then end up doing with the black and white or the colorized version a mixture where certain people and parts are color and certain are black and white, and that really added to a cool effect, which I would have gotten.
Interesting.
But okay, so anyway,
we've got this ridiculous drag race, and they're all being stupid, like,
and they're on this like rickety bridge that has like, it's not even like a real road. It's like these like pieces of wood to like
these wood planks. Yeah.
And the whole time, the girl on the edge, not the driver, on the other edge, you could tell that she was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She was like holding onto the window, and she just this actress, her eyes.
Yes. She becomes the main actress.
They are the biggest actor. Just her eyes, because it's just unreal.
They're incredible.
Yes.
No, her eyes are wild.
Yeah.
Like, in the best way.
So as they're on the bridge, like, the one car like kind of ends up forcing the car of women. So there's like a car of men and a car of women that are racing. And the car of men ends up kind of like forcing the women off. So they just like go over the bridge, like Beetlejuice style, like sink into the water. And then the piece of crap man who was like, he was the one encouraging the race in the first place. He does not admit to racing, and then he blames them. He's like, they tried to cut me off.
And I was like, no, we definitely didn't run them off. That's not what happened.
I was like, what?
I mean, honestly, if you know in your mind, if you believe that the other car, they're all dead, like, why would you give yourself up? Like, you know, he's just a jerk. And he was like, hell, they'll never tell. So
I guess.
You know. But they're searching the lake.
Yes. And while watching this, my husband was there for part of it, and I forgot to write all of this down, so I can't share it. So I'm sorry to any bridge people, but he was like, "Oh, that's a whatever bridge, which was very popular between this year and this year," and like so he gave me the full bridge rundown, and I forgot to write it down, so I don't
His bridge
remember
history.
any bridge facts.
That's amazing. Bridge facts.
So we'll get back to you on the type of bridge.
Yeah, I need to know more details about how this
Yes,
incident could
more
occur.
bridge facts in my life.
But yeah, so I think they were saying too, because of the time of year or the type of season that they had, the rainy season, that the water level was really high, but also really muddy, and like they couldn't find the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're searching for the car and they can't find it and they know it's going to take a while. And so, you're thinking everyone has died.
Because it's been
a while.
You can tell it's been a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. But
then all of a sudden there's this little sand bank in the middle of the river. And there's our girl, Mary Henry.
Yep.
Acting crazy.
Just walks out.
She just walks out. She's looking a little rough and like
she looks in rough shape.
But she's just alive.
Yeah.
And she doesn't remember anything because they're like, "What were the others?" It's like,
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about. And then
show her in this cool organ room.
Okay, listen. I have to tell you about the organ, you guys. I'm going to read you my notes ahead of time. They don't give away any spoilers, but I had a set of consecutive notes.
Okay.
And this is how it went. I like the organ music just over every single scene.
Yep.
Then them all just smiling at her playing the organ is really creepy. Damn, that's a big organ. Ooh, saucy organ music. And that's this movie.
And that's it.
There was a lot of organ music, you guys.
It worked really well though. Like
it's so creepy. It is.
There were a lot of the scenes. I was like, wait, I love the music they chose.
Yes.
Like I noticed the music for how good it was.
Agreed.
So yeah, we learned that she's an organist, a church organist.
And she's leaving for a job out in Utah.
Yep. Yes. She got a job out in Utah. And she's very, you can tell that she's not very comfortable socially already,
right?
But they he says something about her coming back and she's like, oh, I'll never come back.
Yeah.
And then she leaves. So she's a bit of a quirky.
She's quirky.
I love her. Like I love that it's like, oh, are you so excited to do all this? It's like it's literally just a job.
No, it's just
I love the unpassionate church organist.
Yes.
It's like, no, I'm not religious. No, I don't have a passion for this. It's just a job.
I absolutely love her attitude.
I feel like she's ahead of her time.
No, she is a millennial at heart.
Yes, right.
And like later on in the movie, they describe her as, as cold and that she's like not afraid of men and she's just like so aloof about it and like uncaring. I love her vibes.
Oh no, I love her vibes so honestly. Multiple of the women in this movie have awesome lines.
It's later on, and this isn't giving anything away, but like this guy asks her, like, "Are you afraid of men?"
Yeah,
and she's like, "Afraid of men? I don't even think of men."
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh my god, what a queen!"
She's amazing.
I don't even think of men.
I love
her.
Mean,
scared of them,
and she means it too. Like
I know,
can tell she doesn't give a fuck.
No,
amazing.
She's just going to do her job, play her organ music, and move on. But yeah, like they describe her like that she's always been like kind of quiet and kind of strange, but that like she's even acting even weirder than normal.
Yeah.
So then she drives to Utah and she's got that classic old horror film driving where she's like going like this with the steering wheel, like moving back and forth.
Super exaggerated.
And again, just her eyes. Like
so dramatic.
Because I think this is when she starts seeing things, right?
Okay. Well, yeah, okay, because she's just driving down and she just decides she's just going to like drive straight. Did they say where she went from to Utah?
The filming location was Kansas.
But
I don't know
I don't think they said.
Yeah, I
a
don't think it's
location.
said.
But we can
Yeah.
assume it's quite a drive. Like she's
Right.
driving for a long time, but she just decides she's just going to kind of power through. And so
Mhm.
she's driving. It's late at night. And then I got a jump scare all of a sudden in her passenger window. There's just like a floating man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's creepy.
His head
Yeah.
just like super creepy.
Yeah. And again, I love her. I expected her to slam on the brakes. No, our girl accelerates
On the gas.
Absolutely
Because you know you want to get away from him. So I see it.
Mm-hmm. And
really, then she just gets to her new place.
Well, she gets the first glimpse of the Saltaire.
yes.
Oh, that's right.
Because like
she
she
drives
sees it.
by
I mean, it is calling to her.
It does.
You know,
it calls to her.
she kind of just sees it. She sees it for the first time. This is where she gets curious about it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then she learns that it was like a bath house that was created for this carnival, and then it's abandoned because like this place was looking rough even in this movie in '63. So it makes sense.
And it's all
to
locked
me.
up.
Yeah,
it's all
it's all
gated and locked up. Because like it's a big thing that the locals are like you can't go there. Like it's not accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And then does she go to her job or her house first?
Her house first.
The house first.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So she meets her new landlady, who I also just love.
Also love her.
She's my favorite.
She like the landlady stresses on no less than 4 occasions. Look, you've got a bath in your room and you can take as many baths as you want. That's not something that I care about.
I don't care about a thing like that.
I don't care about a thing like that.
And no, I love her so much.
My favorite part is so she's giving Mary a tour of her room, like her bathroom and like her little apartment that she's renting in the house. And she's just like carrying around this giant container of Ajax cleaner. And I was like, what a random prop for them to give her.
Here, hold this.
Well, and then I love that after they're like walking around, you know, she's like, oh, and you know, I'm downstairs in like whatever room. And she's like, so if you need anything, you know, wait till the morning. Like,
right.
I love that. It's like, I'll be right downstairs. If you need anything, please don't
bother me.
You can tell me in the morning.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
These girls have boundaries. These ladies have boundaries, and I'm here for it.
They were ahead of their time.
Yes. Yes. And so while she's like kind of like, you know, learning her, you know, new space, her new town and her new job, that creepy man, and we should describe him a little bit because he's got like white face makeup on and he's just clearly made to look just like disheveled and dead.
Yeah, like his eyes are really dark, his dark circles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he just looks
ghostly.
otherworldly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's popping up everywhere. Like I had a few jump scares with him. He's in her house or like her new apartment. He shows up at her job. So he just keeps popping up.
Mm-hmm.
So then she gets to her job. And I love that the dude, Utah being Utah.
Mm-hmm.
She gets a job as a church organist, but it is clearly not the Mormon, the LDS
The LDS church. Right.
No, yeah, which I kind of expected. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well,
so
like I was like excited because I was like, I wonder if I'll know the church. But then I found out that the churches were all filmed in Kansas.
Yeah,
so
most of it was actually filmed in
okay.
Kansas.
Bummer.
Yeah.
But I was like, maybe I'll know what because I've been in a lot of the churches around here. So
right.
Like,
yeah.
But I love how he like makes a point of saying like, you know, I know we're not the largest church in this state or in this area, but you know, it's going to be a good job for you. Like,
yep.
Obviously we're not the Mormons, but we'll do. But yeah, she's like really drawn to Saltaire, or they don't call it Saltaire.
Oh, okay, wait. I'm just going to quote every single one of her lines. I also love when she meets the priest at the new church and he's like, oh, like people are going to be so excited to meet you. Maybe we could do like a little like party or like a get together, like introduce you. And she's like, maybe we can just skip that.
That isn't necessary.
No.
And he's like, well, they'll be disappointed. Okay.
Yeah, she's like, well, maybe they'll just think I'm a good organist.
Right.
Yeah.
I love this.
I love her.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Like, I'm here to do my job. I don't need to.
Boundaries.
Yes.
And she asks if he'll take her. to the place. Cause she's like, what was this? Like, and she's like, well, will you take me there? And he's kind of like, well, no, like you can't go. Cause she's like, I want to go in there.
Yeah. He does say they can stop.
Yes. But he's like, I will not go inside with you. Like she wants to go into it.
Well, and even so then cause he's like driving somewhere off in the distance. So he's going to pass Saltaire. So they go up to the gate and I love how she's like trying to convince him. Cause she's like, but priest, like, look, the gate's kind of open. We could easily just like get through. And he's like, that would be entirely inappropriate for a priest to break in.
Right. Yes. Which is fair.
No, he has some line where it's like, the law doesn't allow it. Like, the law won't allow it. And it's like, well, we could just go in though.
Right.
So they don't go in. She gets back to her house, her apartment, and she meets her neighbor.
Isn't it like Mr. Linden?
Linden? Yeah.
That feels
Linden.
right.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of, you can tell he's got that grease back hair. You can tell that he's just kind of a schmuck. Like,
he's like so aggressive.
He's very aggressive.
So aggressive.
And he like forces himself into her apartment when she clearly is not letting him in. And he's like, just squeezes his way in through the doorway. Like,
she'd been taking one of her baths.
Yeah.
She's in her towel.
And he's like checking her out.
Right.
Like, yeah, baby.
But then he comes back in the morning.
Yeah.
With the coffee.
Yeah. So she kicks him out basically after he comes that night. And then she sees the vision of the man again. And she like lets landlady know, hey, I saw this dude. Who is that guy? And the landlady's like, you're just imagining it. There's a lot of just gaslighting in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Because she hadn't eaten. So actually it's cute because she hadn't eaten. And so the landlady is like, dear, I think you're just hungry. Like, I'll bring you some sandwiches. So she like, and you can tell she doesn't normally do that for her tenants, but she brings her like coffee but then of course at the end she's like, well, actually maybe you shouldn't have the coffee. Like, I don't think you need any more
well, and she's trying to excuse it's like, it's a big like old house, so like sometimes they're just like noise and stuff. But then she has this line that's like, it's like, oh, it's just such a big house, like you could hide a man in so many corners.
Yes.
Like, what?
I was like, excuse me?
Like, how many
there could be a man hiding behind any dark corner.
Wait just a second.
But yeah, because Mary's acting so hyper. I like you were saying, Brandon, the landlady's like, yeah, maybe you should lay off the coffee. Maybe you shouldn't have it if it'll keep you awake. To which Mary just said, coffee never keeps me awake.
And and again, her eyes, she has these eyes that just make these statements all on their own.
No, yeah. But then of course she like stays awake all night.
Right.
Like worrying about the vision.
Right.
But then old boy comes back, Mr. Linden, in the morning. And so like at first he seems like he's going to be like kind of nicer to her. And he's like, oh, look, I brought coffee. To which he brought them in the coolest mugs I've ever seen. I looked.
Mine was black and white, so they just looked like white mugs.
Oh, no. They were. That's the thing. The colors were actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a colorized version.
Well, and, like her little like robe that she puts on too is like this baby blue that like I want one.
Oh, it's so cute.
Some of the colors were good.
Yeah, cute.
So the mugs are so classic, like early 60s. So here's what happened. I looked them up. They're called jadeite. They're jadeite mugs.
Oh, that pretty green.
That pretty light green. I ordered some. They'll be here in a couple of days.
I'm so
I was
excited.
like, I need those mugs.
No, they're so cool.
So he's like, yeah, here, like, let me, like, I'm sorry I was, coming on a little strong last night. Do you want some coffee? And then he just busts out, what do you think it was? Do you think it was whiskey?
I think it was whiskey.
Yeah, I think it was whiskey.
So,
based on the color?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and like, I love that he's like, here, do you want some? Like, he's offering her sugar, but it's, you know what I mean? It's so it's fucking alcohol at 8, probably 7
like
in the morning.
8 in the morning. It's like before she leaves for work.
Right. Yeah. And then he's like, I'm not an alcoholic or anything. I just like to be happy in the morning.
And then
like,
he just keeps
that is
pouring
the definition of an alcoholic.
Yeah. Well, then she has something where it's like, oh, like you must be ecstatic by noon or something.
Right? I know that was my favorite.
She is so spicy.
I'm just back to back. I'm just gonna quote this entire movie.
So let's talk then about what we're sipping on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because I fell in love with those mugs so much, and because Brianna and I are in Utah, so we are in a half an hour distance to Saltaire, I ordered some of those mugs. So we're not sipping on it as we record this episode, but we will be sipping on it soon, and we'll provide you all documentation. We're going to go get our little green jadeite mugs and drive out to Saltaire and enjoy a sunset and have some, you'd call it Irish coffee, right? If it's
that's what I would assume, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Whiskey and coffee. Whiskey and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we will.
So you guys will all get to see the updated Saltaire.
Yeah, you'll see the new. It's not anywhere near as impressive.
We'll make like a video too.
Even the rundown.
We'll do like a little tour. We'll do like a little video tour.
We've had some good sunsets lately. So although the last few days, not so much, but if we can get a good sunset, I just think that will be so pretty because they have so many cool sunsets in this movie over Saltaire.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, see again.
Oh, you wouldn't have seen it in the black and
regular
white
sky. Like,
see, I have a feeling it'd still be good in black and white, but you honestly do get a lot.
That's
with the
so
color
interesting,
version.
huh?
All right, so yeah, if you don't follow our advice and are listening to this before you watch the movie,
right?
Choose the colorized version. I think,
yeah,
I think it'd be worth it.
I just love black and white movies.
I do too.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, and the lighting in this movie is so dramatic. I think probably because it came out in black and white.
Right.
But like, I think it would still work in black and white.
Yeah. So one more quote that she had when he was leaving, she offered to rinse the mugs out. And he was like, oh no, that'll just ruin the flavor for tomorrow. So then when he's walking out the door, he's like, well, how was it? And she was like, it was unsanitary, but delicious. And I loved that.
It's amazing.
Sanitary.
Do you guys wash your mugs, like your coffee mugs?
Yes.
Or do you just like rinse them and leave them?
No, so I put half and half in mine.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, it's not, I put protein milk in mine, but like, because I put that in there, I don't.
Okay,
Aaron,
see.
drinks his coffee black and he does not wash his mugs.
I'm going to show you guys my mug. I'll be right back.
Like, he'll take like 5 days.
Wait a second. I drink my coffee black and I wash my mug every time.
I mean, why?
Well, because it's unsanitary. I don't know.
But it's only unsanitary to yourself.
Oh my gosh, I wash it every time.
Okay, this is my everyday mug. Yeah. It's a white mug. This is what the inside looks like.
Oh gosh. Okay. Was it
I love this.
Was it originally white?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I drink black coffee. I drink 2 cups of black coffee every day. No cream, no sugar, nothing. Right. And I rinse it out. It's just, it's just got a little bit of a patina.
Okay.
I love this.
It's just the seasoning.
Yeah.
It's
like a cast iron.
Yes.
For our listeners, you know how we described the episode that we watched not too long ago, The Other Side of the Box, where it's like a normal box, but the inside is just so black that it's like a black hole. It's like
that's
void.
Your mug.
No light goes into it.
Yes.
That is Yvette's mug.
We'll make Yvette take a picture of it and we'll put it on our Instagram so you can see her mug.
Take a picture of my mug.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it doesn't help that, okay, so it's the Ember mug. It's the one that, not sponsored, but please, if you want to.
Yes.
I've pitched this to so many people. It keeps it warm, but sometimes I'll forget like a tiny amount of coffee in there and it stays warm. So then it just cooks it. Like it like evaporates all the water.
It is. It's seasoning.
So it's, it kind of just like sticks to it. So I mean, I rinse it out and I don't put any cream and sugar in here ever. Yeah. But, just the seasoning.
All right, maybe I'll start not washing my coffee mugs. No, I can't do it.
So like Yvette's coffee mug.
2 kinds of people in the world.
like Yvette's coffee mug, the movie starts to become a little more unhinged.
Yes.
At this point.
Because she goes shopping.
Yes. And this is a wild experience. Because she goes shopping and she's trying on this lovely black dress. And she's gonna take it. So she goes back to the fitting room to change. And does she have any visions, or is it just?
Well, it's a little effect almost.
Yeah, there's
it's almost like vertigo.
It was almost kind of like she was underwater.
Yes, but honestly, if you ever have experienced like migraines and vertigo, like I recognized that. That's what it feels like. Like sometimes my peripheral just shimmers when I'm getting a migraine.
Okay.
So
see, because I thought it looked like, more like, it's almost like they put like
probably
water.
Was underwater. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then she thinks the door is locked. She has a few moments of having trouble with gates in this movie.
Yeah.
You tell she has a little anxiety because the second she can't get it, she starts to panic.
It's like me when things don't work. Sometimes I just like.
No, she's so relatable. Like she's so real, It's like you can't open the door, immediate panic.
But is she like tries to like I think it's when she tries to check out, right?
She goes back out to say like, oh, I'll have it delivered, which I'm like, oh my God, life was so different. And I know there were a lot of horrible things, like women's rights and stuff, but like
we have that now.
That you could just have a dress delivered like that.
Oh, and it's going to be like hemmed. Like they were like fitting her. It's like, it's a little long in the back. Like we can level it out. Like,
But she's talking to the girl and she's just ignoring her. And she's like, how rude. So then someone else comes by and she's like, this woman is being so rude. But he ignores her too.
It's like no one can hear her or see her.
And she also can't hear anything either.
Own hearing. You just have this very muffled sound.
Because she
not hearing anything.
She runs outside like what is happening? And there's like construction happening, like drills into concrete, and she can't even hear that. So it's very notable.
And she goes to take a drink of water, and she sees the man again, the creepy man. But then in a second, she realizes, it was just a guy who was still creepy because he was standing too close while she was drinking her own water.
Really close,
right?
But she's kind of like freaking out at this point. So there's this other guy that happens to be a psychiatrist and is like,
he's not
a doctor.
A psychiatrist.
He wasn't you're right. He was just a doctor.
Yeah.
And he's like, my office is right over here. Come on. Because he's like, he tells her like, it's no time for hysteria.
No, I love that. No, calm down.
And just terrible, I guess bedside manner or couch side manner, if it's like kind of a psychiatrist more setup, because she's talking to him and she's like bearing her soul and she's like, it's like no one, it's like I wasn't present in the world. It's like I didn't exist, and telling him all these problems. And he's just got this like high back chair where he's completely turned away from her.
Not looking at her.
The entire time.
First, I almost thought it was going to be that all of a sudden he couldn't hear her either.
Yeah.
But no, he was just being a jerk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and it's like, she's like bearing her soul, and he's like giving advice and doing this. And then at one point, he's like, well, I'm not a psychiatrist. And I was like, whoa, wait, what?
This guy. Then why are you listening to her?
Well, clearly, accountant, what?
Clearly he's not, because although I'm no doctor, I mean, that is the first thing they teach you in any counseling class that you take, is all about active listening. Body language is huge. You have to actually, face the person that's talking to you.
Yeah. Right.
That's like the least you can do.
So after talking for a bit, she's like, you know what? I think me going out to this place is what will help. I think my answers are there. Like, I think if I go there, it will fix all this crazy shit.
Okay, I have to mention one other thing that happens at this doctor's office. Because the thing that he takes, like, she is telling him she believes she doesn't exist in the world. She, for a while, couldn't hear anything and no one could hear her. This doesn't faze the man much at all. What absolutely shocks him to his core, that he cannot get past, is that she mentions that she doesn't have a husband and that she has no desire for a boyfriend. And he could not get over this.
Yeah.
Have you always been this way?
Yeah, that's the worst thing he's ever heard. That she's like, I don't need a man. I'm fine on my own.
Right. That means she's hysteric and hysterical.
Don't be hysterical.
So, but then she decides, she's gonna go to Saltaire on her own.
Yeah, because she asks if he'll go, and he's like, "No, of course I'm not gonna go."
No, because he's like, "Oh yeah, no, like you should go out there. Don't go alone though. Like,
Right.
I mean, I can't go with you, but yeah, no, you should go alone." Like me, oh, I'm busy. Oh wait, that reminds me of an earlier quote that we skipped over when the neighbor first tries to ask her out, the main actress out. She's like, "Oh, I've already made arrangements to eat in my room." And I was like, I'm going to start declining stuff like that. "Oh, sorry, I have prior arrangements to eat on my own."
Yes, I have arrangements to eat in my room.
Yes.
And I'm going to say it just like that.
I'm going to say it like, I have previous arrangements to eat on my couch under a blanket.
Sorry.
Okay, so one of the things that I love about us doing Spooky Sips is that we get to like analyze our experience watching the movie. So I'm curious, did either of you have an idea of what was going on? Because
I had
for
a
me,
suspicion.
It was when she was like in the park freaking out that I was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like, because I feel like I've seen this done before where it's like, well, someone will have like a near death or even die and come back. And then they just have like a connection to the other side.
Yes.
That's what I thought it was, where it was like, oh, like maybe because she maybe even died and came back or was like near death. She's like seeing like ghost whisper, you know, she can see them now.
That's
and,
kind of
survivor's guilt is a big thing. Like at first I just thought it was like trauma, you know?
Yeah.
I also thought maybe she died but came back, and so the other world like is kind of pulling her back,
entrenching on.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, she decides to go, but
she goes.
Okay. I was trying to remember.
No, she just goes solo.
That's right.
Yeah, she goes solo. And I love when she like gets there. The music in this movie was so good. The organ music turns into this just total like fun house music, like you'd expect at a carnival, but creepy.
Yes. Yeah, no, they found the perfect creepy amusement park organ music. Like that sounds like a ridiculous description, but if you listen to it, that's exactly what it sounds like. They nailed it.
Totally.
Yep.
And like the place is totally abandoned, but she goes into like the big kind of open area and there's this giant slide and just and I'm trying to think to myself, like when they made this movie, who thought, oh, you know what we should do to make it creepy? Let's send a mattress on its own down the slide. That'll be creepy. And it was.
It was.
But who thought to do that?
Well, it was probably the ride. Like the ride was the mattress.
Yeah, because you would like sit on it to slide down.
You like lay on that to slide down.
Yeah. Oh, instead of just like a pad. But it was like a full mattress.
Right.
It was like a full twin size mattress.
Back in the day, they just used full size mattresses.
Bareback and slides.
Okay, so I wasn't putting that together because I was like, what the heck is that?
No, I figured that was just the ride.
Oh, okay.
So, you know.
I just threw a mattress. I love that.
Wait, I got this mattress over here. I have an idea.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
And it's just kind of this cool scene of her, just like some far out shots, some close shots of her just walking through and experiencing it. But at this point, it's abandoned. Like that's all. There's nothing.
Yeah. She doesn't see anyone.
Nope. And then she goes to work.
She goes home, and then she's asking her out.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she got fired first.
No, because she goes home because the guy wants to go out with her again, and she's like, "Meet me after."
Oh,
work.
yes.
Yeah, meet me after
I'll be done at like 9.
You're right. So yeah, she goes back and they set up a date.
And this is when
she
like
goes to practice.
He's like saying you're so cold, like, and she's just like cannot be bothered with him.
It's like almost like victim blame. Like he's doing this weird reverse psychology, like victim blaming her into agreeing.
There are so many red flags in this guy's abusive tendencies and behavior. So many red flags. Because he's like, it's like you're not afraid of me. Aren't you afraid of men? And she's like, of course I'm not afraid of men.
She's like, I'm not afraid of a man. What are you talking about? But I love this next scene because, she's just practicing. So nobody else that she knows is there. Mm-hmm. And it's just this like, I don't know, it's like she devolves into the madness of her own music because she starts playing an organ hymn because she's got her cute little hymnals that she walks around with, like church organ music. But then like her hands start getting a little more flowy.
And she's like
feet start moving and the music takes over.
Yes. It's like she's in a trance.
Yes.
Oh. And then she sees a vision.
Yes.
Which I kind of think might have been almost like a dream. So the vision she sees is she sees all of these people that look like the one man she's been seeing. So they have kind of the same sort of makeup and look about
like the Walking Dead almost.
Yes. Yeah. And she sees them coming out of the water. And then she sees these dead people like dancing at the Salt Palace, but it's like sped up, like unnatural, jerky, sped up movements. And then the main man she's been seeing, he's like coming to strangle her.
And that's when her boss comes in.
And this is such a wild overreaction, you guys. I was like, oh my God.
Sacrilege.
Because the music she was playing was still just regular organ music.
No, it was the devil's music.
Apparently.
Sacrilege.
And she was fired. But then, of course, like after she's fired, because she's almost not even responding. She's just kind of like, okay, she takes her books. She doesn't say anything. She starts to walk off. But he's like, the church is still here for you.
Yeah, I know. He's like, I'm going to have to ask you to resign because the music you're playing is evil, sacrilege, profane. But, I still like you as a person.
So if you want to come to church, we're here for you.
Just can't work for us anymore.
Yeah.
Wild.
And then she goes on a really bad date.
Oh, you guys.
It's rough.
This guy is something else. So he takes her to like a bar, I guess.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, let's go dance or whatever.
And he ordered, he wanted to dance.
Yeah. And just really predatory, like just
forcing her to drink the beer he paid for.
Because he's just spent so much on that Budweiser.
And she says something about like, how does it say? Like she says something about like you drink really? And I do like this quote he has where he says, "I not only drink really, I really drink."
Yes.
Like, ooh, I like that line.
Yeah, there's some good quotes because she says like, "Oh, I don't really drink." And he's like, "Oh, well,
And he's like degrading her because she doesn't drink. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, because he put a roofie in it for sure.
Oh, 100%. Don't trust this guy.
And then and then he's got a guy that shows up that he's talking to,
like his friend,
and they're like just being stupid, and he's like, well, I'm going to go hit on her so she'll want to go home with you more because that's what you'll need to get laid.
Again, just and he's so rude to her, and he's just playing mind games with her. Just so many red flags.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a slight tangent. We'll get back on track, but real quick. I've probably already told you about this story, but before I met Aaron, I didn't really date. Like I went from high school to my now husband, but I did date a little bit. And there was one guy that I dated, and I found out when we were on the date that he was LDS. And again, that's fine. That isn't why or anything, but I immediately knew that like we wouldn't click. So we're at dinner and like I didn't eat a lot, and he legitimately goes, "Are you going to finish?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not very hungry." And he was like, "Well, I paid for that." So my now husband, I told him this story. My now husband teases me with this all the time. Like he'll always be like, "I paid for that." Like
I paid for that.
But so like I have personal experience with guys like these. Like this movie struck a memory.
Because he literally said
memory.
that. Yes. He said like, "I paid good money for that beer."
No, I know. I was like, oh, the memories. Yeah.
Terrible.
Men.
Yeah, tip for men. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Okay, and
so then it gets
they get
worse.
back to the house, and she says, because she's freaked out. Like, she just got fired from her
Yeah,
job.
she's scared.
She's seeing weird visions. So she's freaked out. So she's like, I don't want to be alone. But like, she's obviously also like not wanting to sleep with the guy. But he forces himself into her apartment. And then when she says, no, I can't do this. Like, I don't want that. He's like, you asked me in. No, she didn't.
No. The gaslighting.
No, she didn't.
No, she didn't. Yeah,
I was so mad.
Yeah, he's a horrible person. Like, he's just an ass.
Yeah. Oh.
But he finally goes because he gets offended. So he's like, oh, fine.
Yeah.
And then she starts like pushing furniture up against the door because she's like, well, if I have to be alone, I'm going to protect myself. So she closes all the windows and, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like, clearly this girl is not well. Like, she is struggling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes to the next morning and we've got the landlady waiting. Mm-hmm. And the doctor comes down.
Yeah.
So we see that like he was in there. Because the landlady mentions like she was moving furniture all night. Like, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So
like she's not well. Like, she's got to get out of here. Like,
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then she was also like, but I don't want to pay for you visiting her. So
yeah. She's I mean, like, she can't stay here though.
Right. Like, she can't stay here and I'm not going to pay for any of this, but I was worried about her.
Yeah. And I love that the landlady is like, well, I hope she leaves. And then the doctor's like, I hope she can.
Right.
Like, ooh.
And so she tries to leave.
She does.
But then her car just starts making noise, Again, it's just so relatable, Mm-hmm. We've all driven around with a car that makes too much noise.
Mm-hmm. And so she drives to a shop and they're like, sounds like it's your transmission. Mm-hmm. And again, she's just like, she's so high strung and on edge at this point. And so he's saying, well, do you want to like get out, or it might take a while? And she insists.
Because they put her up on the thing. So the car is now
like on the lift, which there's no way anyone would let you stay in the car.
Yeah, because she's like, I just want to stay here while you work on the car. But it seems like she starts to nod off. Mm-hmm. And then when she does start to, like, it seems like she starts to nod off, she kind of like falls out of the car. Mm-hmm. So she gets scared and she takes off.
Yeah.
And then this is where I think might also have been kind of like a dream. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, she goes inside of a building and there's that same effect where it's like she's underwater.
Yeah, like the ripple.
She's like getting that aura. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, no one can see or hear her. And then she also cannot hear.
Yeah.
So she's like,
there's like this scene that I love where like she tries to like stand in front of a car and then realizes that they don't see her and like then tries to run away from the car.
Yeah.
Like I love like, that little moment. Right. Oh, never mind.
Mm-hmm. And so she's trying to like get on a bus ticket, or she's trying to get a bus ticket to get out of there because her car won't work. And she's like, I got to get out right now. I can't even wait for my car. Mm-hmm. But she can't buy the bus ticket because no one's listening to her. So she just runs to the bus because she hears whatever bus is going east is leaving. So she boards the bus. The scene was so cool. Mm-hmm. She gets on the bus and all of the passengers are just all those dead people. It's just a bus full of dead people.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
And they're like slightly beginning to rise from their seats a little. Like, it feels very ominous.
And all of these scenes were filmed in Salt Lake.
Okay.
Finally, places did you guys recognize it? When she runs out, there's the wall that she's like in front of at the beginning is right outside the LDS temple downtown.
Yeah.
And then she's running away and you can see the temple. So she's like running through like what has now been replaced by a mall. Right. But like that whole like section of like downtown Salt Lake. And then the station is the what is it called? Like the depot, right?
Yeah, the depot.
No, not the depot. What is it called?
I don't know.
At the Gateway, they just
opened a new restaurant.
Yeah,
it's like not not Central. Like what?
No, yeah. What is a word for it? Oh my god!
Oh my gosh! I know exactly what you're saying.
They just opened a hotel.
And it looks so fancy and cool. I want to go.
It does. No, I went and just checked out like the
amazing.
inside.
Okay, while you look it up, I'm going to explain the rest of her like dream state. So she's like running around just all.
It's just the depot, right?
It is just the depot?
Yeah. It's the Union Pacific Depot.
I mean, the gateway.
Yeah, like at the gateway.
I thought that it had a more. Oh, the Rio Grande.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Depot?
like
the Rio Grande. Yeah,
Okay.
area. Okay, yeah.
It's the big station. And if you ever go to Utah, it's the funniest building because now they redid it. But back in the day, for years, I mean, literally decades, it was literally just a bathroom. Like just this giant hall. But when you were going to the mall, if you had to use the bathroom, like that's the only thing that was in this building.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. But yeah, so she's running around. She's trying to find someone to help her. And then all of a sudden, and this had happened earlier, but all of a sudden, she can start to hear again.
Yeah, she hears birds.
She hears birds and she can like see birds in a tree. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that she can hear. And then
again, she's just reminding us when you are having a breakdown, sometimes you just need to like touch grass and like, connect with nature.
Ground.
You know? That'll ground you and bring you back.
Exactly. She really was ahead of her time.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, then she's back and she's saying things like, I don't belong in the world. Like she's realizing like that's what's happening. And she's again talking to the doctor with his back turned.
Yeah. And she just leaves her car.
Yeah.
Like she just walks away. It's like, you know what? Screw it.
Right.
Goodbye.
But she's not really talking to the doctor because as the quote unquote doctor turns around, and I had suspected this would have been like the dead man.
Right.
It's the dead man.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're back at Saltaire.
Yeah.
Because she wakes up.
There.
She wakes up. Remember, this was actually just a dream. So she goes back and gets her car, right?
Oh,
like this was a dream that like when the man turned around and it was the dead man, she like awoke.
Oh, that's
the car.
Right.
And she was in the car the whole time asleep.
Yes.
And so she backs out and drives away, even though they haven't done anything with her car. They haven't fixed it yet. She's like,
and
I
must have zoned out at this part.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
I totally forgot.
And then she goes back to the Saltaire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just like wandering around looking at things. There's this one scene when she's there and she's kind of just like looking around and she looks out kind of like onto the lake, onto like some salt flats in the lake. Mm-hmm. And no matter how long I was like looking at it, I couldn't figure out, are those people she's seeing or are they sticks coming out of the ground? And I think that was on purpose.
Yeah, I think that was on purpose.
Yeah.
But it was such a cool scene.
Very cool.
That's what happens to people when they're freaking themselves out. It's like, is that people? Yeah. Is that sticks? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Loved it.
But then there are people that are starting to come out.
Yeah, the dead people, they're coming out of the water. She's seeing the dancing people.
Yeah,
I loved this part because she sees the dead man dancing.
The partner.
But he's dancing with her. Like she's watching her and she looks dead. She's a dead person. Yeah. She's dancing with the dead man.
Oh, so cool. And then she just has like one of the most amazing screams.
Yes.
She has an epic scream and then they just start to chase her. And she's just running away from them. And this was the time in the movie when she was colorized, but all the dead people were black and white. So it was very cool because even the scenery was colorized, but they were all black and white. It was very cool effect.
Yeah. No, it was really cool. And like you get the chase scene, like I'm assuming what's under the salt palace, like it's like all the columns, like they're just like slowly popping out. Like they're everywhere. They're surrounding her. And then she runs away and they all start coming out. And then she just trips in the sand. And you see them all start coming towards her, blocking the camera.
They overtake her. She vanishes.
Yeah.
And then we see a group of guys walking out there following footsteps. It's like the priest and the doctor and then like detectives. And they're like, and then her trail stopped here, and they zoom in and there's just like a handprint.
Yes.
And that was it.
She was gone. But then flashback or flash forward, I guess, to Kansas or wherever
they're dredging up that river.
They found the car.
Yep.
And at this point, for sure, I was like, oh, she's going to be in the car.
Yeah. Yeah. No, at this point, for sure.
So I wrote down, they finally found car. My guess is also her body.
Yes. Yeah.
I was correct.
And it is.
They finally find it. They pull it out, and there's 3 girls.
They were the best looking corpses for like months later. And I love that their eyelids were all moving.
I was like, that's what I wrote down. I was like, these are the most alive bodies I have ever seen. They barely even looked asleep.
I was like, you did all this work on the dead people. Like you could have done a little makeup on
like, okay, you see them breathing, their eyes fluttering.
Okay, in their defense, apparently the water was like really cold.
Okay.
Like they could not physically stop themselves from shivering. Like they were trying so hard to look dead, but apparently it was so cold, like their body wouldn't stop shivering. Yeah. So they had to work with what they had.
Well, it looked bad.
Yeah.
But it's wild because like the movie ends and you're like, so wait, was she ever in Utah?
Yeah.
Or was that a dream? Or was she there, but in this like limbo state?
Yeah.
Like purgatory? Like
some people saw her.
Well, but did they? Or was that just a dream?
Well, but they were in real life looking for her.
That's true. That's true.
So like maybe she was just between the two worlds.
In purgatory.
Yeah.
It's a very cool concept for a movie.
It's such a good movie.
Like
it's really good.
It felt really dated to me watching it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I mean also I think like I feel like we cut old movies a lot of slack for having the title of horror because it was just such a different definition. But even then, like I think of moving.
We got the fun effect again.
Nice.
You did the weird thing.
What is that?
I don't know.
And like it hadn't happened at all today.
No.
Like that was so weird.
Because I like restarted everything. All right. Well, anyways. But I was gonna say it isn't like a scary movie. To me anyway. I had no jump scares. Like I didn't have any like it's a great movie, but I wasn't like scared.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
few little jump scares, and I think that it was like kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was creepy.
I think it was more just like more just the vibe of the movie. Like it was, it was kind of spooky all around.
Yes,
and more of a mystery kind of effect.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised that like it doesn't have more of a, I don't know, reputation. Like I don't feel like you hear about this one a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I think the only reason we know of this movie at all is because it is set locally.
Like I even asked our parents, and my dad had heard of it because of Utah. But like, I don't know. I feel like that's actually been a couple of times now that we've watched. What was the other one we just watched? Oh, My Bloody Valentine, where I was like, I feel like these are like the underdogs of their time because I feel like
I think they're kind of hidden gems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, I was very happy with this recommendation.
Yeah.
So I was watching it, and at very like different parts, I was like, "Oh my god, what is Laura gonna do?" Because I kept being like, "There's a lot of ground to cover.
There's a lot
here for a psych segment." Because I feel like you could go,
oh my gosh,
10 different ways.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, just remember, she's not a real doctor. But these are not real people. And she really may not have been a real person.
I don't know.
So who
There's
knows?
no way to know.
Yeah.
So where are you going to take us?
I'm mostly going to focus on what the 2 main times where I felt like she was in that trans dream state.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So that's going to be like the bulk of what I do. Okay. And then I'm going to diagnose her just a little bit.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. So the first dream I'm going to analyze is when it seemed to me that she was dreaming that creepy people were walking out of a dark body of water.
Mm.
She saw the dead people dancing at an unnaturally fast pace, and the man tried to strangle her.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like that was kind of one dream. So as we've talked about and analyzed in the past, water represents emotions. And I don't know if you remember, like, when we first looked it up, it was because, like, they theorized that somehow water, it's all, like, tied to, like, being in utero and, like,
Of
being
course
in the
it
mother's
is.
womb or whatever.
They always tie it to that.
Exactly. Yeah.
When in doubt, in utero.
And so dark water can indicate unknown or unresolved issues. And so then the people coming out of that dark water could be that these issues that are unknown to you or unresolved, they are needing to come to the surface.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dead people can represent a part of you that has died, or possibly in this movie, the whole you.
The whole you, the whole part of you.
So if you dream about dancing out of control, this could relate to recklessness in something that you've done in your waking life. Like, how friggin' spot on is this? She goes drag racing, and then dead people dancing out of control could represent that she did something reckless in her waking life that's leading to these unresolved or unknown issues. That she
Either
needs
of you
face.
ever dreamed of dancing people?
What?
Maybe.
Like of dancing people.
Oh, I thought you said a dancing bugle. It's like, that can't be common.
Like the snack?
Like the little bugles.
Or the dog? That's a beagle.
I'm just picturing the little bugles, like, okay, so we could have them dance in two ways. One could be you put them on your fingers like you did when you were a kid, and like you have them dance. Or
people are dancing with bugles.
I'm picturing them like with little like cartoon drawn stick, like legs and arms.
No, see, I'm picturing them like the stilts in the water that you didn't know if they were sticks or people. Are they bugles?
It's bugles.
No, dancing people.
Oh, not that I can think of.
I don't think I've ever dreamed of dancing
out.
people.
Yeah.
So you guys, I know that we typically pair our episodes with a drink, which we will be doing, but do you think we should have our spiked coffee with bugles?
We have to.
Well, you have to do like a mini road trip to get to the Salt Palace. So like you should bring bugles for your road trip.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, we'll cut this part out so it'll be a surprise.
No.
But we have to take a picture of bugles like in the sand. Like little stilts. And we'll make it all artistic.
Yes.
We have to remember to bring Ghosty with us.
Yes. Bring Ghosty.
Oh my gosh. Ghosty and bugles.
We can stick one in his little thing and have it. Oh my God. Okay, we're getting out of hand. Pull it together, girls.
Dancing bugles.
Dancing bugles.
I don't think I've dreamed of dancing bugles or people. But maybe dancing people. Like, because I used to, when I was younger, like I didn't do.
She was a dancer.
I didn't do sports, but I took dance classes.
Yeah. She was very good.
But I think that I would probably like just think of the routines a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. Like that's like your activity.
That makes sense.
So I can like picture myself like going over the routines like in my dreams or whatever.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
And the bugles. Okay. So
we can get him to sponsor us.
Maybe we could.
That would be incredible.
Let's go.
I love bugles.
Bugles and Yvette's coffee mug company.
Yeah. Yes, that's all you need in life.
Yeah. So
would that be amazing if those were like our first two sponsors?
That'd be incredible.
I would be so excited.
Okay, sorry.
Bugles are
the
solid.
only ones we need.
Although, did they change bugles? Because I feel like in the past, they used to
Don't
be
start
wide
to
enough.
slander, Laura. They're one and only future sponsor.
Well, no,
We'll cut
I'm
this
not
part
saying
out.
it's a bad thing. I just feel like they used to be a little bit bigger to fit on your fingers a little bit
or
better.
were your fingers just smaller?
Or maybe my fingers were just smaller.
Yeah.
These are the questions we ask here at Spooky Source.
45 minutes later, we're still talking about bugles.
What's a better snack to put upon your fingers? Bugles or olives? I say olives.
What about
I
one
hate
of
olives?
each
So
in alternating pattern? So you have like a charcuterie board on your fingers. Just
oh yes, love it.
okay, we are getting out of hand.
coming back.
Okay, I'm glad I did kind of a shorter psych tonight because we're never going to get through this.
This is all we talked about the whole episode.
Okay, so dancing out of control, as we said, could relate to something reckless you've done in your waking life. But the fact that it's also not just out of control, but the fact that it's also too fast could do with transformations in your life that are happening too fast. Like she died too soon.
Yeah.
Right.
If you dream about being strangled, that could relate to a frustration you feel at the restrictions of life. What is more restricting to life than being dead?
Yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So, to sum it up, the unknown issue, like her not realizing that she died, so of having died and that she hasn't accepted or confronted, it is threatening to make itself known. And this issue is a result of her being reckless, which she also has not faced that fact that she was reckless to lead to her own death. And on some level, she's feeling frustrated and anxious about this transition to death and the restrictions that come with it. Because even though she hasn't admitted it, it's like it's sort of there.
Yeah.
Like under the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Which it totally makes sense, right?
Oh, yeah. No, it lines up.
Yes.
Oh. Okay. The next dream I'm going to analyze is when she dreams, again, it's like she's underwater and that she can't hear sounds and no one can see or hear her.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a bus full of dead people, so she runs around scared. But then she hears a bird sing and feels better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Being underwater, again, it has to do with emotions. And if you're underwater, kind of the way she was, where it's almost like she's like trapped and not happy about it, it can relate to the insecurity you feel. Like if you dream you're underwater, it's like you're insecure about something. Not able to hear sounds. That relates to a disconnection you have from external stimuli or a lack of communication in your waking life. Now, we do kind of know from the past, she was kind of like this cold and distant, not very social person anyway, which could relate to communication. And I'm just realizing, you know how they call her cold so many times? Like dead.
Cold. Like a dead body.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Not being able to be seen or heard, that can relate to feelings of isolation, insecurity, or a desire for recognition. It can mean that you feel overlooked or undervalued in your personal or professional relationships. She hadn't gotten her big break of being the big organ player yet. So she didn't get that professional recognition yet because she ended up dying.
Yeah, true.
Bus full of dead people. That can mean that there is a need for you to confront a significant life change. Like dying.
Yeah.
If you're running in your dream, you're often trying to escape or avoid your reality. So she's trying to, not face the fact that she died. And birds can represent a need for release from something in your waking life and finding peace with a new reality. So to sum it all up, she is insecure about how to be a dead person.
Yes.
And that this will lead to a disconnect from those she knew while she was alive. And like a not being able to be professionally fulfilled. In fact, she already feels the effects of living people overlooking her, not valuing her, but she needs to confront this change and she needs to stop trying to escape and avoid her reality. If she does this, she can find peace in death. That's what the dream means.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I went hard into I busted out the actual dream book.
I think you have to.
I did a
Bringing
combo
it back.
I did a combo of that plus some internet because there were
think you
some
have to.
that weren't in the dream book. Like
Well, that's a bus full of dead people.
well, that wasn't in there. Oh, no, what was the one that wasn't in there that was so strange? Oh, sounds. Like not being able to hear sounds, like that wasn't in my dream book.
Interesting.
Oh, see, that's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I can't think of having that dream, but that seems not
right.
That seems like something that would be in there.
Right? The birds were in there.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I love how accurate the dream analysis
I
always is.
know.
Like based
so
on the movie.
good.
It always works. Mm-hmm.
I had a thought while watching this, and I'll bring this to my own therapist, but we'll talk about it here. Because like even in the drag racing scene, we kind of get the vibe that like she's different than her two friends because she wasn't into it. And they were like, hell yeah, we're gonna beat these guys. And then, we hear about she's cold, she's offish. And as someone that also has depression, I was like, I wonder if like for her, part of the problem was that in her living life, she already felt so disconnected from the world that when she found out she was dead, she didn't notice.
Right.
Like it wasn't a discernible difference. So that's why it took her so long to realize like, oh, wait, I'm dead, because she felt dead already.
Absolutely.
I mean, she says like, I don't belong in the world. That's what's going on here. Like she's talking through it. Like that's what she comes up with.
I'll tell you. I'll update about what my therapist has to say.
Yeah, let us
just
know.
send her this episode.
Exactly.
Send them this episode.
So that actually relates to my diagnoses.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Good transition.
So, a thing that you do in the field of psychology is you can do like, differential diagnosis. So you have to like rule things out. Right? So here's a consideration I have and something that I would need to rule out in order to give one diagnosis for the other. One possibility is she's dead. That's my official diagnosis.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Priority number one.
But
the diagnosis.
A second possibility that I am going to diagnose her with is PTSD, which we've talked about in the past. But PTSD can come with a few specifications, which I believe she has. So I believe she has PTSD with depersonalization and derealization. So that is a real thing in my little DSM. So if you have PTSD with depersonalization, that can mean that you have persistent or recurrent experiences of feeling detached from and as if one were an outside observer of your own thoughts and body, which is completely what we see with her.
Yes.
So she's definitely got that. And derealization is a persistent or recurrent experience of unreality of surroundings. So like the world is like you're in a dream. It's distorted. She clearly has both depersonalization and derealization.
Yes,
definitely.
Another thought or thing just to bring up is that doctor also, he went back to the tried and true hysteria.
Right. I mean, it was
not time to be hysterical.
Like early 1960s.
Which we've talked about that before. That's just like, especially women, but just people just, it's just that it's hysteria.
Right.
Yeah.
But he also mentions a theory that he has, which I do find intriguing. He mentions that the figure she tells him that she sees a lot, he says that just represents your guilt.
Yeah.
Survivor's guilt. Because survivor's guilt is such a real thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So guilt itself does not directly cause hallucinations. So if you are feeling guilty, it's not going to lead to you all of a sudden imagining this man.
This dead man. Right.
This dead man. However, it can exacerbate some underlying mental health conditions, which could lead to hallucinations. So it could be that you've got this underlying condition happening and it hasn't been sort of triggered or brought about. And then that intense guilt can kind of lead to the full expression of your mental health problem that you had before. But like, yeah, so if you have like severe guilt or shame, you might experience like hearing things or like voices that kind of reflect your guilt, or in her case, seeing something that represents your guilt. But no, you're not just, that was a poor diagnosis on his part. You're not just going to imagine a man because you feel guilty that you survived when your friends didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, we've got the question that we must beg every time we do this type of psychoanalysis is, or was she really being haunted? Or was she really dead? Or was she really seeing a man? Like, yes, mental illness could play a part. But also, like, like when we watched The Black Coat's Daughter, like, yes, schizophrenia would explain it very well.
Yes, technically.
But also, maybe she really was just possessed by the devil.
Right.
And like this, maybe she really was dead.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And that's why I give a little bit more weight to the dreams, because I feel like in her purgatory state, not dead, not alive,
that was helping her understand.
Exactly. That was her way of processing through it.
Yep.
The human mind.
So there's a lot of topics in this movie that we have discussed time and time again, like all the gaslighting and some of the other stuff. But I think we focus on some of that depersonalization, derealization that she experiences as part of her PTSD. And she could have that even as a dead person, actually. So maybe I shouldn't do a rule out.
Yeah.
Right.
You can be a ghost and have mental illness.
Yes. Oh. My worst fucking nightmare.
There's no escape.
It right there, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, therapist. I no longer need you. I now know my worst fear.
You figured it out.
There's no escape.
According to us.
So on that note, I cannot top that.
Nope, that's it.
Over.
No,
that's
all psych.
That's our leaving message.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I can get into a few fun facts for the movie.
Please distract us.
Jane, moving on. Okay, we already talked about the filming locations, but yeah, most of it was shot in Lawrence, Kansas, which is where the director, Herc Harvey, lived. And then he got the inspiration when driving back from a job in like California, driving back to Kansas, and he saw the Saltaire and was like, wait, that looks really cool. It would be great if we could make a movie there. So the Saltaire stuff is filmed in Salt Lake. And then that one scene that we talked about was also in like downtown Salt Lake. So like a little bit it was in Salt Lake, but actually most of it wasn't in Utah.
Okay.
So I mentioned he got the idea while going on the drive. So basically the director saw it. He was like, I want to make a movie out of this. And so he went to his friend that's a writer and was like, will you write something? The only thing I need is that in the last scene, a whole bunch of ghouls have to be dancing in a ballroom and it has to be at the Saltaire. And that's it. That's all I want. Like he just had that final scene and anything else was great.
Brilliant.
Right?
I mean, it all came together.
I kind of love that because it's like, the mind that came up with that just from that tiny little thing.
Well, like how many times have we talked about like the making of a movie where like the ending gets changed like 10 times,
right?
Or they have to like really reconsider what they're doing with the ending. This one, they started at the end. They knew what they wanted, and it was like, now how are we going to get here?
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Brilliant.
It was loosely based off of a French short film called An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, which is an adaptation of an American story by that same name.
Okay.
So, so it's like loosely based off of that. I haven't read or watched it, but the budget for this movie was pretty low. which is probably why we all had such a hard time hearing and watching certain scenes. They had a budget of about $30,000,
Okay.
which they raised pretty much by going around and asking local businesses if they were willing to contribute to help make a movie. Like they were going like, hey, do you have like $500
That's
that you could
amazing.
give us to help make this movie?
I'm surprised anyone would do it.
Right.
I
No,
know,
people
right?
were all for it. You know, they're, I mean, I think people, especially in like Kansas, were like, oh, that'd be cool to like have our town be in a movie. Like,
Yeah.
sure, why not?
Mhm.
And they let them film on the bridge for pretty much free. There were basically two conditions, which is get the car out of the river after you throw it in.
Fair.
And you have to replace the rails that got damaged by going off the bridge, which apparently only cost about $12. And adjusting for inflation, it'd only be like $128 today.
That doesn't seem
For the rails?
right.
Yeah. I mean, it was like
up to code.
that was like a wood slat. Like it was like they were just paying for like a piece of wood.
Right. I don't know if that's up to code though.
I don't think that bridge is around anymore, shockingly. I think it's been replaced by like a concrete
thank God,
bridge.
but
Thank goodness.
I mean, honestly, though, that's a very reasonable request. Like,
yeah, it's like, sure, do it for free, but
right.
Yeah, they kind of had to like save wherever they could. So apparently, even accessing the Saltaire and like a bunch of places where they filmed, instead of getting like the proper permits, you know, like a movie normally would, they would just kind of pay people off to let them in.
Nice.
So they could film and try to not get caught.
That's
so
amazing.
I think they only paid like $50 to film at the Saltaire.
Love.
Amazing. Well, so I was wondering about that for our picture for our drinks. Can we just go up to the Saltaire?
Yeah, like we may not be able to go in the building, but you can just
is fine
to it. Yeah,
we just want to I just want the pictures like from outside of it anyway. But
yeah, you can just go up.
I mean, there's like a giant parking lot.
Because I was like, well, we don't have a concert ticket or anything. Like, are we allowed to just go?
Yeah.
But,
oh yeah, because we won't
just
be
like a big lot.
Yeah,
we'll just pay somebody off. It'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll just pay someone off.
Yeah, from what I hear, you only need like $50.
Or we'll just break in like she did. You know,
exactly.
It'll be fine.
The ghost, like our main ghoul ghosty guy, is played by none other than the director and creator of the movie, Kirk Harvey.
Good for him. I would do it if I was a director. I'd be like, I want to be in it.
That's awesome.
I don't really think anyone from the movie went on to like do more movies and like bigger things, but I watched an interview with him and maybe his producer, or him and his writer, and like they just seemed like such cool guys. Like I know nothing else about them, but from the interview, it's like they were just so chill about making this movie. Like it seemed like two guys that just wanted to make a movie, and they made something that was like just incredible, you know?
Yeah.
The entire thing was shot in 3 weeks, and it's because that's how much time he could get off work. The director.
I love that this like seems so not professional, but
I know
it's professional.
Yeah,
movie. Wow.
I was really surprised that she didn't go on to do a lot. Like,
I know.
I looked into her history. Like, this was there were little things, but this was pretty much it. Like,
well, she died after it, right? Like, or in it. Just kidding.
Oh, well, yeah.
I realized that was going to sound. Never mind. Cut that
out. I will.
She's
not.
a ghost.
Yeah, she's a ghost.
She's a ghost. Of course she is.
Yeah. Well, so apparently part of the reason maybe this happened is I think the distribution company that they went with kind of messed it up for them. They released it as a double feature with another horror movie that I'm forgetting the name of. And in order to do that in a lot of places, they had to just randomly cut some time off of the movie in order to like get the times to work right.
Okay.
So they ended up cutting some like kind of essential scenes. Like I think in some places they ended up cutting like the chase scene at the very end of the movie where they're kind of like following her and they're like poking out between the columns and stuff. Like they cut out kind of essential scenes that like changed the movie. And so when it very first came out, it was, not their version. It was edited strangely. It was distributed strangely. And so it didn't really have great reviews or have like a great release. It wasn't until over 20 years later in 1989 that they got a new distributor who decided to re-release the movie, and they re-released it in, I'm assuming the version we all saw, like the full version of the movie. I think that's maybe when they did the colorized version as well. So they like re-released it in theaters and online. And then after that happened, again, 20 years later, it got really good reviews and was like very well acclaimed. And they got like awards from it, like the director and the producer. Again, I forget who he was interviewing with. They were talking about like, yeah, like now they go to like all these conventions and do all these things. Like it was like 20 years later, it kind of got this like second life.
I'm so glad it did, but that's sad it took so long.
Yeah, that's like the injustice of not getting it the first time.
Yeah. But, I'm happy it came back. It's like, don't give up. 20 years later, people found it.
Right. Check in with me in 20 years and see how we're doing, okay?
See, that's a better takeaway message.
Right.
Those are all my fun facts. I kept it short.
Fascinating. What a like unique movie. Yeah. Like I really love that it stood on its own as far as like the story. Like I really just loved the uniqueness of it.
Yeah. Same. Again, and I just loved all the characters. I love the main character. I love just the attitude of all the ladies in this movie.
I look up to her. I admire her. That's who I want to be when I grow up. I don't need a man.
No,
I'm not scared of a man.
It's like, a job is, it's a job. It's not that serious.
Right? I love it. All right. Well, see ya. No,
we have to rate it.
Oh, just kidding.
Okay, well.
Okay, well, bye.
Okay, bye.
Just kidding. All right. Here on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars. We give sips. Let me try to take myself seriously. So out of 5 sips, how many do you give this movie?
I feel like true to form, I like the movie way more during and after our discussion than I did watching it.
Same.
Because watching it, I liked it, but like I found myself not paying attention sometimes.
Yeah.
I found myself like not super invested.
And
but I do appreciate so much about the movie and the characters and the fact that it's like a locally based movie. So I'm going with, I think it's one you should watch. And I'm going with a 2.75.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's right along the lines of what I was thinking. Like I was trying to decide, it's like, is it a 2.5? But the 2.5 seemed too low.
That's what
3
I thought.
Honestly seems too high. Like I know we give all these like decimal place reviews, but like the difference between like a 2 and a 3, like that's huge. That's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference.
So yeah, I don't know. I think I agree. I think 2.75. Like it's a good one. You should watch it. Not the best movie I've seen, but it's great.
Yeah, I think for me, like I enjoyed analyzing it more than I did watching it. Yeah, because for me, like I did have a few moments where I was like, yeah, but this really isn't a horror movie. Like it doesn't belong in that genre. Maybe like a thriller. I don't know.
Although it captured your worst thriller.
It did capture my worst fear.
So what's more horrific than that?
For that very purpose. But so for me, I was going to go with 2.5 because I actually really still enjoyed it. And I do recommend watching it. Because I really think like if you love that old school, like, The Birds and that kind of style movie, this should be in the rotation of those classics. Like it deserves more of a reputation than it has.
No, it is. It's such a hidden gem. And I'm forgetting which movies, but like some pretty big movies, like the people who made them have said that this was like part of the inspiration. Like I think Night of the Living Dead was maybe inspired by this. I think even like loosely Final Destination.
Yeah.
I think it was like it was it's referenced in, a lot of other movies.
Agreed.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a hidden gem.
All right. Well, usually I mention our next movie, but I think maybe we should have Laura tell us because It's special to her heart.
Mm-hmm.
So, Laura, what are we doing next time?
So next time we are having a guest on Spooky Sips, and our first male guest. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't do it
only had the
intentionally.
ladies.
You'll be hearing a deeper voice.
Yes.
Next time on Spooky Sips, my husband Jaden is going to be joining us. So he picked the movie, and he picked the movie Event Horizon. 94, I think. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
I had never even heard of this.
97.
So
No, I hadn't heard of it
very
either.
excited to watch it.
So it's funny because he had mentioned that if he was ever going to be a guest, this would be the movie he would pick. And I, like you all, was like, oh yeah, I've never seen it. No, I totally had seen it before, which we'll talk about. But yeah, it's very 1997. A little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of horror. But that's what we'll be doing next.
All right. I'm excited.
I'm excited.
I need to know why he picked this.
I know.
Me too. I want to know.
I'm very excited. All right. Well, if you haven't seen it, get watching and get sipping. And we'll see you next time on Spooky Sips.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Adorbs.
Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.